Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. A packed show this morning with potential optimism around Varane, potentially some deals around, we're going to talk about Jack Grealish, Tolisso, we'll also be talking about Pau Torres and a few other things as well, but real optimism around around Raphael Varane. Actually, let me just start off on a positive, on something that is definitive, before we talk about this Varane sort of merry-go-round of positivity. Let me just start off by speaking about Harry Maguire. If you watched England last night, did you not see what we've been talking about on this show as a community for probably a year? Put a decent centre-back next to Harry Maguire becomes a better centre-back. I think Harry Maguire is a good centre-back. I think since Christmas he was very good. I think before Christmas he was very poor. But he's playing without a decent centre-back. I mean, look, whatever you think about Phil Stones, John Stones, Pebbles, he is a decent centre-back. You know, he's one of Man City's first-choice centre-backs. And him and Maguire look way better than Maguire and Lindelof. So Maguire with a decent centre-back changes how United play massively. So look, I thought that was a real positive last night. But let's talk about Raphael Varane. Varane wants United transfer. This is becoming more and more exciting, even though I'm going to remain a sceptic. I mean, I was sceptical about Sancho. I said he wouldn't sign till after the Euros, even though people were saying he will. And with Varane, I think United will screw this up. But look, I'll be at the front of the queue pushing everybody out. I'll be pushing out the optimists and going, yes, I said it would happen. If it happens, even though I don't think it can happen. So basically, what is happening around Varane, there's three strands to this. First of all, from the Athletic, they're saying that Torres and Koundé are considerations behind Varane if they can't do the Varane deal. There is no interest from Varane to sign a new contract with Real Madrid, and that Real Madrid are looking for 40 to 45 million to get the deal done, which I think for Manchester United is absolutely fine. 40 to 45 million is absolutely fine. But then the more interesting story, and this is coming from MUFC MBB Twitter, who is quoting an outlet who say that Varane has recently changed his agent to Base Soccer Agency, which is an English-based agency, and that Varane has done this because he wants to move to England, therefore putting Chelsea and Manchester United as the two most likely destinations. Now, if that is true, and it's not as verifiable as the Athletic, I don't know how you would rank that, and I don't know how much truth there actually is in that, but it certainly builds some momentum towards the fact that Varane seems to be very interested in Manchester United, and this talk from Spain that Manchester United are in pole position at this moment. It doesn't mean you're going to win the race. You can be in pole position from the grid. You know, you might have scammed it, and then once the race starts, everyone else goes past you. But Manchester United seem to be in a strong position. I don't think anybody can deny, even I cannot deny that United are in a strong position at this moment in time to bring Raphael Varane to United. And as we said yesterday, do you feel my voice is sort of nearly going into Jim White? I've been doing Jim White too often. Sky Sports, Jim White. Yesterday, as we said, no, I'm not going to do it. PSG. Ramos has apparently, and this is from Spain as well, Ramos has told close people to him that he's going to PSG. So if PSG get Ramos, they get Hakimi, they've already got Wijnaldum, and they're in for Ronaldo. Are they going to go for Varane as well? They're basically buying a whole new team. So it's looking like Varane will not go to PSG. It's looking like Varane will not stay at Real Madrid. And it's looking like Varane wants to come to the Premier League. Well, therefore, this is a race that if you lose it, it's embarrassing. But as we know, if Chelsea against United or any other decent club against United, I don't know whether we can win that race. But it's all getting temptingly exciting. You know, you see Maguire last night with a decent centre-back next to him, and he looked flawless. You know, he's not played in a month. And Harry Maguire looked flawless last night with that confidence of Luke Shaw and John Stones next to him. Imagine him next year with Luke Shaw and Raphael Varane next to him. That defence goes up a gear, and it's very exciting. So look, hopefully something will happen around that. We'll have to wait and see, but it's definitely looking good around Raphael Varane and a move to Manchester United. And more interestingly, I think for me, is that you get these deals where, you know, United clearly want a player, but the player maybe doesn't want United. It's the exciting thing for me, and obviously we've got it with Sancho as well, is that Varane appears to very much want to come to Manchester United. Now, we were speaking about Pau Torres last night. Let me just delve a little bit deeper. Romano confirmed that Varane and Trippier have the same agent. Hi, Mark, says Lil Yo-Yo. So maybe there's something in that. You know, I don't know. I haven't dug massively deep into that base soccer agency. But if Varane has changed his agent to base soccer agency, which is the same agency as Trippier, then that could be very, very interesting. We spoke about Torres last night. The Athletic are saying that underneath Varane is Koundé and Torres as Manchester United's centre-back options. For me, this again is massive positivity because whatever you think, and I'm going to be watching that Torres game at 5 o'clock tonight, and obviously Koundé may be playing at right-back, we're hearing, for France tonight. That would be interesting to see. If we're not going to get Varane, we can't get Upamecano, we can't get Alaba, we can't get Konate. So you do delve down, and I actually think Torres and Koundé, preferably Koundé for me, but I know Torres for some of you, that's not terrible. That's not terrible that those two would be the backup options if we can't get Varane. So that's quite comforting. There is mention of Ben White, but there is a belief that he's going to go to Arsenal. Good. I mean, look, if I said to you, if I ran a poll and I wanted to guarantee that Ben White got 0%, I would say, Manchester United fans, we're running a poll, vote on the centre-back that you want. Raphael Varane, Koundé, Pau Torres, Ben White. I mean, some idiot's going to vote for Ben White, but realistically, everyone's going to go Varane, Koundé, Torres, and then Ben White's not going to get it. So I don't want to see us getting Ben White, and I don't think that we will. So I'm quite comfortable with that. Although we were talking about Pau Torres last night, weren't we? And a potential transfer setback if we want to do that deal. Again this morning, coming from Sport, which is a Spanish outlet, they're saying that Manchester United or any other club that wants to buy Torres will have to pay the release clause, which is 65 million euros. And 65 million euros is about 55 million pounds. Well, if what we're hearing is that Varane is going to be available for 45 and Torres is going to be 55. I mean, look, United have got to do absolutely everything to get this Varane deal over the line. Hi, Mark. Hope you are well. United looking into Sionku. Do you think he would work well with Maguire? Says Apollo 30 times. I don't think we're looking at Sionku. I don't think we're looking at Sionku at all. In fact, I can categorically tell you we're not going to sign Sionku. The reasons being mainly that I don't think United would want to spend the money that Leicester would want, and Leicester would want probably more, around 60 million quid. Well, I'm sorry, Varane, Varane, Torres and Koundé suit us better than Sionku does. I like Sionku, but we just won't do that. We just won't do that. Make sure you smash a like on the video, by the way. Two players I want to talk about here is Tolisso, but I just want to bring Jack Grealish in here. Look, I'm a massive fan of Jack Grealish, and I thought he was very good for England last night, and I think he'd be very, very good at Manchester United. A lot of people are saying, is there any opportunity for Jack Grealish to come to Manchester United? Well, I'll go back to what I said 6 weeks ago. Manchester United really do want Jack Grealish. If you're in 2020. A year ago, United wanted Grealish. They thought Pogba was going to go. COVID had, probably a little bit over a year. It was before COVID had hit. And it was very much expected that United were going to get Grealish last summer. But COVID hit, Pogba stayed, and United didn't go for Grealish. They went for Van der Beek. Rest assured that Jack Grealish would be in the top 3 transfer targets for Ollie if he could get what he really wanted. The problem is, if it is a problem, is that we bought Donny van der Beek, which was a cheaper Jack Grealish. Therefore, there is no ambition to go and buy Jack Grealish, and that opens up the door to better clubs than us in relation to squads. Man City and Chelsea, they're looking at Grealish. United, Solskjaer, if you got Solskjaer and said, do you want Jack Grealish, he'd say, oh, yes, get Carricky in, we'll talk about it. He would love Jack Grealish. And I think most of us would love Jack Grealish at United. And I think he would be perfect. I think when I think of Jack Grealish, I see a United shirt on him. I see the red. I don't see a light blue or a blue. I see a red shirt on him. He is a United player. You can see he's got that United thing about him. He is a leader. He can take the pressure. I mean, look at what he did last night for England, but look at what he does all season for Villa. He is their star player and still he makes things happen. Brilliant player, perfect for United, but unfortunately, it's just not on the cards. It's basically like, we admire you, but bye-bye. And that's a shame, because I think that he would be brilliant at United. But at this moment in time, and look, things can change, but if you want a percentage, if you want the goldometer, it's probably 10% chance that we will not get him this summer. And it's probably 80% chance that he's going to go to another club. If we get someone like Varane, does that mean Ollie will break up McFred and play Pogba more in the pivot? I hope so. I hope so, Tom. Mark, considering the realistic scenario, Sancho centre-back and a right-back, you think we need to change our formation, says Paraz. I mean, I will not change my mind. I think that a CDM is still the number one target. And if we don't get one, I feel this summer is a failure. Now, that is blunt, but that's my opinion. People will be going, how can it be a failure if you get Varane, Trippier and Sancho? They're very good players, and they are. But you're still Bagel FC. We still have a hole in the midfield that I think is an issue. Maybe you're right, Parrot. Maybe if you get Varane in, you can play Pogba in the pivot and one of McTominay and Fred. But I still don't think one of McTominay and Fred is good enough as a CDM. Varane will come only if the deal is swift and no delays like the Sancho deal. I feel after all this wait, Sancho might go somewhere else, to be honest, says Vikram. I don't think Sancho will go anywhere else, Vikram, because I don't think anybody else is looking to buy Sancho for £82 million. I think we're the only people willing to write that cheque, and Dortmund know it. That's why they're playing games, really. Aditya says, hi Mark, Varane deals just seems too good of a deal for the Glazers to do. Let's hope they actually get the first choice this time. Look, Aditya, I've got to be honest with you. I don't think Varane can do this. I don't think United can do this deal. I'll sit here and quite happily say you're incapable and you're incompetent. And then when they do it, I'll tell you, well done. I'll say they've done a great job. So it's up to them. If this board and this club want to impress their fans, then you do that by getting Varane. That's what you do. But it's not just Sancho and Varane. The third piece of that puzzle is a good CDM. I'm not going to, I think for 8 years, we've been accepting second best or sometimes fifth best. The reality is, yes, Varane would be a great signing. Yes, Sancho's a great signing. But, are we just going to accept two pieces of the puzzle? There's still a leak in the midfield. There, for me, protests. No one really likes the Glazers. They've got to go and get a CDM, a centre-back and a right winger of real quality. And if they do that, I think most of us would say, well, look, whatever about everything else they've got to do, the share scheme, the ground, doing this consistently, that's a good summer. And they should come out of this summer, if they're very serious about, atoning for their mistakes involving the Super League and the last 16 years of debt and dividends and, really genuinely trying to get the fans back on side, because this won't be enough to get the fans back on side, but if they're genuine about getting the fans back on side, then at the end of this transfer window, we need to see a CDM, a centre-back and a right winger of quality. And if they don't provide those, and it'll be basic Glazers, right? They'll get Varane and Sancho, they won't get the midfielder to save money, and then they'll go, look at what we've done. I don't think we should accept that. Joseph says, I'd be happy to take Grealish over Sancho. I'd imagine he wouldn't cost much more than 80 million and bring much more to the team. Interesting. Clarkey says, I think we need leaders on the pitch because we lack them on the sidelines. Duncan Castles says, Van der Beek part of a swap deal with Sancho now. Thoughts, says Clarkey. I can't see that. I don't think Sancho's as convincing to some United fans as he is to me and others. I think Jadon Sancho is a real quality player, but I don't think fans are like. I think a lot of people are like, well, this is last summer's signing, and we're taking ages to do it. And I don't think a lot of people think he's like, it's not like signing Mbappe. Maybe Sancho can be at that level, but he's not Mbappe level yet. He's not Neymar level yet. I don't think people would accept Donny van der Beek leaving as part of the Sancho deal. Tabras says, hey Mark, have you mentioned the most campaign signforunited.org at your channel? I think it deserves all the attention it can get. Glazers out, says Tabras. We have mentioned it before, but signforunited.org is a website that you can visit in relation to the Must Manchester United Supporters Trust, which is also about it's about like registering your interest in effectively the movement to get the Glazers to relinquish some control or all control of the club. So yeah, it is a good cause. I need to bring Tolisso in here. I don't know the source because last night I was a little bit on the source for the England game. And yes, I do think England will be out by this time next week. I don't think we're going to win it, but maybe that flip side mentality might help. But Joseph says a CDM is essential when gorging any opposition. I always taught to look at the spine of a team: goalkeeper, centre back, CDM, attacking midfielder, and striker. Well, that's a great point from Joseph, because we don't know who our goalkeeper is. We haven't got the centre back. Our CDM is a massive hole, and we've got Bruno and Cavani. Our spine is not as strong as it needs to be, not in a long way. But yeah, I don't know where this Tolisso story came from, but last night I saw something about Tolisso and Manchester United. And interestingly, I'm going to say that I hope there is absolutely nothing in this, even though I really do want Manchester United to buy a centre defensive midfielder. I cannot be that guy who says, let's go and get Tolisso, but I sat there saying Cavani was a risk and don't go anywhere near Dembélé. Like, the reality is Tolisso's injury record is, he's having a party with Phil Jones and Dembélé in the NHS. Like, his injury record is ridiculous. So, yeah, he's a good player. Like Vabath says, he's a good player. And for £35 million, look at him. But like Arist says, he's a box-to-box player and he's injury-prone. And he's not a CDM, says Cormac. He's another one of those. He's another one that could play CDM, but he's not a CDM. He's not a CDM. So, you're buying an injury-prone player for a start that you've got to adapt into something that he doesn't really do. He can do it, and I think he has done it, but I don't really see him as that. So for me, Tolisso is a no. And you know what? United have got experience of taking players off Bayern Munich that they think are going to be good, and then they're not. And Schweinsteiger is the one that upset me the most, because I loved Schweinsteiger, but he had injury problems and we brought him in probably 3 years too late. So, look, if you're going to get Tolisso, you may as well get Bissouma. I think Bissouma, why would you buy Tolisso and not get Bissouma? I think Bissouma is better. I think he's got a better injury record, and I think he's Premier League proven, and you'd probably get him for about the same price. And I also think Bissouma can play CDM more than I think Tolisso can. Mike John says, Goldie, Harry needing a complement partner at CBM. Centre-back shows he was not worth the 80 million. My mate Doug is a prat, says Mike John. I mean, look, in relation to Harry Maguire, if I said to you we'd spent £50 million on Harry Maguire, would you doubt him? I don't think that you would. Harry Maguire is a subject and victim of the price that our pratty board paid. If you forget the price tag and make it a more realistic one, Harry Maguire was never an £80 million centre-back. He's just not on the level of a Van Dijk or a Diaz or whoever else, Ramos or a Varane. I don't think Harry Maguire is a top 5 centre-back in the world. And those people we've just mentioned are. Is he in the top 10? Potentially. Is he in the top 20? Definitely. Therefore, he's a £50 million centre-back. That's what we should have paid. But Leicester saw us coming and they mugged us off. That's not Harry Maguire's fault. I think if you get in your head that Harry Maguire's a £50-60 million centre-back, you probably stop obsessing about the fact that he was 80 million, expecting to have an £80 million centre-back. United spent £80 million on him. Leicester sold him for that price. Harry Maguire didn't say, I'm not moving unless you sell me for the same price as Van Dijk. Harry Maguire was just a centre-back looking to move to a bigger club. So I don't think we need to move Harry Maguire because we paid £80 million for him. I think we need to realise that he's a very good centre-back that we overpaid for, and he needs a better centre-back next to him. And then I think you've got a very good pairing. Personally, bringing Sancho is basically destroying Ahmad's career, says Aditya. Interesting. And I can see us buying Torres and Ollie playing him on the right-hand side and Maguire on the left, even though he's left-footed, says Josh Band. Well, I've said this before. I saw people last night talking about, imagine United's defence with Pau Torres at the left side of centre-back and Harry Maguire right-sided centre-back. And I'm like, well, I think for the first time in a long time, I actually saw Harry Maguire go to right-sided centre-back last night for England when Tyrone Mings came on for the last 20 minutes. And I didn't like it. I'm used to Harry Maguire as the left-sided centre-back. I think he's used to the relationship he's got with Luke Shaw. He's used to running at that side of the pitch. And yes, he's right-footed and we can move him. But would you move him? Would you move him when you're bringing in a new centre-back? Would you, you can do it. But why would you do it? Why would you get Pau Torres over Rafael Varane? Pau Torres has got to get used to Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire. And Harry Maguire has got to get used to Pau Torres and Wan-Bissaka, and Luke Shaw's got to get used to Pau Torres. There's a lot of new relationships without even thinking about who your goalkeeper's going to be. Whereas if you keep Maguire with Shaw, they know each other, they've got chemistry, and it's just about Varane and Maguire and Wan-Bissaka. But look, we could well end up with Pau Torres. How would a new CDM signing potentially affect Donny's chances of becoming a starring player this upcoming season, says Axel Allen. And Daniel Lechman says Camavinga for 43 million last year in his contract, no brainer. Yeah, Daniel, you're not gonna make me disagree about that. And look, from what I've seen of Camavinga, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think Camavinga is a player that is more suited to the pivot as a midfielder than a lot of players are. Can't wait to finish the Euros and move away from boring defensive. Can't break down a team football and get back to Ollie ball. Oh wait, says Mark Dobby. Yeah, that's because you're watching England, mate. Other teams have been very, very good. But look, going back to that previous question about Van der Beek, if we buy a centre defensive midfielder, I mean, imagine Pogba leaves and we buy a centre defensive midfielder. Pogba going is bad news, because if you buy the centre defensive midfielder, you can play Pogba in that pivot, but you can then play Donny in the pivot as well. So I think a centre defensive midfielder is so key because it sets so many people free. Make sure you smash a like on the video if you're watching. We're nearly at 1,000 likes. United showing incompetence to sign Sancho last summer, and Southgate incompetence to use Sancho has destroyed the excitement out of the Sancho signing, says Sheikh. It is I agree. I suppose it's a little bit disconcerting. And look, I'm very, very proud that this morning's show we haven't spoken about Jadon Sancho, really, in passing. We've not really spoken about, Sancho's close, he's definitely going to leave. It's closer than close. Personal terms are agreed. There's a song there. Sancho's close. Sancho wants to leave. Sancho's so close. Personal terms are agreed. Boring. I can only read regurgitation so many times. But what we can talk about is the fact that United are going to spend £80 million on a guy that can't, is basically he's Southgate's Donny van der Beek. He's just underused, and I think that he's underused because Southgate is a prat, to be honest with you. I thought Saka played really, really well, but Sancho's career and season is parallel to anybody. He's done it in a very tough league. He's done it in the Champions League. But Southgate just doesn't want to use him. And I think some United fans are a little bit worried about that, because they're like, well, why are we spending so much money on a player that, might not be better than Ahmed, and we could spend that money on a really good centre-back. Like, literally, you could spend £80 million and get the best centre-back in the country. You'd get Ndidi for 80 million. You'd get Declan Rice for 80 million. Now, whether you wanted to spend that much or not, you would get the best centre defensive midfielder, money can buy with £80 million and not get Sancho. So, is that a thing? It's not Sancho's fault, but is that an argument? Why are we spending £80 million on a right winger when Greenwood can play there and Ahmed can play there, and we need a CDM? Are we fixing the bloody? Is it like living in a house where your bathroom's leaking, but you've spent all your money on the living room, and you walk into the kitchen and it's all leaking down and the bathroom's a shithole? But hey ho, we've got a cinema room. Are we fixing where we need to fix? Because that Sancho money could be spent on an area that we really need to spend money on. And are we just spending that money because the Glazers are idiots who want to get a marquee signing in to make you buy shirts? Are we being played? I don't know. I don't have the answers. We've all got opinions, and that's the way it should be. But at the end of the day, if we don't buy a centre defensive midfielder, or whether we do buy a cheap one, there is £80 million being spent on Jadon Sancho because we're trying to right a mistake from last season. Now, should that money be spent on that player when we desperately need a midfielder? And are we being played in not only one way, that they've dragging it out all summer again because they want to take us away from the Glazer out movement, but also secondly because they're buying a marquee signing who's very marketable. He's basically going to be the English Pogba in relation to marketability. He's already got deals with like Pepsi and stuff. Are United going for Sancho, not just because he's a good player, but also because he's going to sell shirts, he's going to hype everything up, he's going to move everyone away from the Glazer out movement? And, spending that money on Ndidi, although it's better for the team, you ain't going to sell as many shirts, you're not going to get as much hype. I don't know. That's for you. You're intelligent people. I don't know. I like Jadon Sancho, but if we don't buy a centre defensive midfielder, I'd have to sit here and say, why did we spend £80 million on a right winger when we've spent 35 million on Diallo, and you've got Palestri, and you've got Dan James, and you've got Greenwood? And I'm not saying any of those are better than Sancho, far from it, but are we going to sell any of those players? Palestri will go on loan, Greenwood will still be here, Diallo will still be here, and Dan James might still be here. Should you not fix the spine before you start buying marquee, is what I think people are saying. If we pay 80 million for Sancho and we pay 30 million for Ahmed and not using him, this is basically is buying Sancho for 110 million, says Aditya. Interesting interpretation there. Talking about people going out the door, this was from The Athletic as well, so you can take this with a relative amount of credibility. They're saying that Steve Bruce wants to be kept informed in relation to Phil Jones, Axel Tuanzebe and Brandon Williams. Now, I don't think we're going to have a problem loaning Brandon Williams or Axel Tuanzebe, but if somebody wants to take Phil Jones, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to buy him, but definitely get him out on loan, see if we can sell him. Get Varane, get Kante, Pogba stays, French connection, says Jay. Well, look, Kante is not going to leave. Our problem isn't attacking, says Apollo 30 times, it's our defence. Take Phil Jones, please, says Advath Warrior. And I'd move James to the left as a backup to Rashford, says Owen. What about Martial? Ollie, after looking Mings and Maguire together last night. Oh, Karaki, Mingsy looks good with Maggie. Let's get him in. Yeah, Salish. Yeah, let's hope not. Susan Brandon says, I didn't know we were allowed to sell players. Yeah, apparently you can. It's a bit like substitutions. I don't think we realised that we can actually sell players. I think we thought that we just accumulated them and that. Are United actually linked to any CDMs? And by the way, I think Donny is probably our best CDM if he was given the chance, or do we promote James Garner, says Ben M. Look, I see a lot of you talk about James Garner, and I think that, look, all football clubs have got differing levels of enthusiasm in their fan base. You've got positives, realists and everything else. But the point about James Garner, in my opinion, is, and you can have your own opinion, that's the way it should be, is that if you fall into the trap that United might set, you're a fool. Because I think what will happen in pre-season is James Garner will train with Manchester United in pre-season, just like Jesse Lingard, just like Dillo, just like Mata. And all four of those players could end up staying, and all four of those players would be bad moves for United, because basically it's about saving money. If you keep Lingard, you're saving money. If you keep Mata, you're saving money. If you keep Dillo, you're saving money. And if you keep Garner, you're saving money. In the case of Garner, he is a fantastic talent, and I think he has got the talent to be something very special for Manchester United, but only if we nurture his career the way we need to, and that is to send him on loan next year, because there is no way he is ready to play first team football for Manchester United. And if he's not going to play first team football, there's absolutely no help in his career by having him train with the first team for a year. Look at Brandon Williams last year. Look at Axel Tuanzebe last year. Young United players barely played and lost a year of their career. If they'd have been at Villa and Newcastle last year, they'd be in a totally different position now. Same thing will happen to Garner. He'll come to United, he'll play a few pre-season games, people will say he's amazing, and then we won't see him play. I've seen this happen before. I've seen Andreas Pereira when he was younger playing pre-season, and everyone's gone, what a player, and then he never plays. Do you think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to pick Garner over McTominay and Fred? Not in a million years. He'll give him a bit of bench time and a bit of Carabao Cup. He was arguably Nottingham Forest's best player from Christmas to the end of the season. In a mid-table championship club, in a very competitive league, physically and demanding in relation to, the intensity of it. He needs to go on loan this year. He needs to play at least 30 first-team games, and we can't give him that. So everybody who's hyping up Garner, you might wake up with a really bad situation, because everyone will go, oh, we don't need a CDM, we've got Garner. We'll never bloody use him. The only way he's getting into a United team is if he goes off somewhere else and does well. We've seen it with Lingard. Lingard wasn't getting picked. Goes to West Ham. Oh, let's give him a new contract. We didn't give him the opportunity. He took it at West Ham. So for me, Garner's got to go on loan next season. And I'm hoping that United aren't going to do this typical Williams and Tuanzebe thing where we're keeping them close to first team, but we're not going to use them. These players have got to be used. Thanks for the super chat, Brian Jolly. Mark, James Garner is staying at the club next season, training with the first team, being sold as the new CDM. Exactly, and that worries me. That loves me. That worries me. Mark, realistically, do you think Ollie learned from his mistakes last season, says Joshua Dobvu? Well, look, we're talking transfers, Joshua, and I think that, we're not going to learn whether he has figured out how to get his defensive coach to defend free kicks, corners and set pieces. That's a big thing he's got to do. We're not going to learn till next season if he's learned that you can use substitutes. We're not going to learn till next season if he's still going to use the same 13, 14 players all season. And we're not going to learn till next season if he's figured out how to beat a low block. They're four big things he's got to do next year. But we'll find out when the season kicks off. And if he doesn't do it, everybody knows it. From the media to the fans, everybody knows that the weaknesses of Solskjaer's United. But we also know the positives of United's under Solskjaer. 3rd place, 2nd place, hard to beat, capable of beating anyone. So, I think it's very easy to turn a negative into a bigger negative and ignore the positive. I know what's happening at United. I know there is doubt. I know there is Ollie out. I know there is Ollie in, and I know there is doubt. But nothing will get resolved until we start kicking the football again next season. We've got 8 games at the start of the season that effectively you'd expect Man City and Chelsea to win all 8. So if United are serious about progressing from second, we've got to go and win the first 8 games. There's no time for trying things out, sticking how it was. If things don't go, and the standard of football's got to be better as well. It's not just results. With fans back in the ground, it's about performance as well. So look, that's for next season, and of course it could get better, it could get worse. I know that, but this summer transfer window is so important, and I think if you get a Varane and you get a Sancho and you get a top class CDM, then for me that can only improve that team that finished second last year, and obviously Pogba's future. Amit, morning Mark. Rather than accepting, can we please instead gift 5 million as compensation to Newcastle for Jones? If we can get money for Phil Jones, it'd be fantastic. Jude Bellingham is one for the future. RZY. I know we're going to get Jadon Sancho, but for me, I'm very excited about the matches tonight, Salish. Watch-alongs on That's Football. Spain's group at 5 and then Portugal, France at 8. Can't wait. Bruno against Pogba. Could be Bruno against Pogba. Bruno might not start, but Bruno against Pogba could be really interesting. Very excited about that. What really is disheartening is this reluctance to sell any of the players that don't play, says Chris Grathwell, who's one of our members. I can see he's got a badge next to him there. Thanks, Gaz Lane. Hope you're doing well as well. Mark, we need Sancho. To have Sancho and Ahmad as backup is what City are doing with Mahrez and Silva. We want a strong second squad. Tolisso, says Manuel. Very good point until you said Tolisso at the end, whose injury record is abysmal. So, and he's not a CDM. So, yeah. But Oris says Jude and Garner pivot for the future would have been great. The disappointing thing about Jude Bellingham is that we should have got that deal done. He visited Carrington. We should have got Jude Bellingham. And to see him at Dortmund, where his value is going... they paid 25 million for him. He's probably tripled his value already in a year. 75 million. And people say that's ridiculous, but if you wanted to buy Bellingham, Dortmund wouldn't sell him for anything less than 75 at the moment. And that's going to keep going up. He's 17. That's United for you. That's United's negotiations for you. How do you mess up that deal? How do you mess up an English lad who comes to Manchester United's training ground and then decides to go to Dortmund? Well done to Dortmund for doing it, but how do United mess that up? And the scariest thing of all is he made the right choice. He definitely made the right choice, because at 17, do you think Ollie would have been picking him in the midfield this season? No, he'd have gone, he's a good player, let's wait 5 years. Whereas Dortmund get him straight into the team. So I think he made the right choice, but I'm just so frustrated that we didn't get him. He even met Sir Alex Ferguson, says Isaac Jones. Yeah, And I think to be honest with you, he chose Dortmund because he probably looked at it and thought, will I get picked? And to be honest with you, I think he's right. I don't think he would have got picked. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he would have picked him as much as Dortmund did. And therefore, he's played in a quarter-final against Man City in the Champions League, where he was arguably man of the match. I just don't think, if Van der Beek can't play ahead of McTominay and Fred, do you think Bellingham was ever going to play against them, ahead of them two? Clarkey says, I'd love to see Ward-Prowse at United. His free kicks and corners would be fantastic for Cavani and Maguire. Underrated and should have been in the England squad. Ward-Prowse is a very interesting one. He's an interesting one, Ward-Prowse, because, again, he's more of... he plays in a pivot for Southampton and he does a lot of defending, but could you play Ward-Prowse with Pogba? Could you play Ward-Prowse with Van der Beek? Is he a player that's going to break up the play? Could he be a sort of Michael Carrick? I think he's more of a dynamic box-to-box player, to be honest with you. And that's what he is. He's not a CDM. So again, you're trying to turn somebody into something that they're not. We need a specialist CDM. And can I just say, I don't think United will sign him, but you've just reminded me of something fantastic. So thank you for the James Ward-Prowse comment, Clarkey. What a great point that is to lead me into something I would have forgotten to say. Declan Rice last night, apparently he was shit. He comes off at half-time and England lose the midfield. This is what a specialist CDM does. They shield the back four and they progress the ball. That's their job. They're not there to do Rabanas or bloody keepy-ups or score, 30-yard screamers. They're there to do a job. They're there to conduct. And Declan Rice, I think, for England, has done a very good job this tournament. Because when he came off yesterday, you saw how that job wasn't there. We need a specialist centre defensive midfielder at United. Now, Ndidi is a specialist CDM. Declan Rice is a specialist CDM. Fabinho is a specialist CDM. United need to stop looking at box-to-box players that could play there and go and get a specialist CDM. There are plenty there. We need a specialist centre defensive midfield. Jack says he lost the ball 7 times in 45 minutes. Look, Jack, whether he had a good game or not, we missed him in the second half. His job is to protect the back four and move the ball forward. No, okay, right, maybe he didn't move the ball forward that well yesterday, but his job is he's a specialist CDM, and I would take him over all these players you're talking because that's what his job is. Camel says, have you heard about this Polish youngster? Oh yeah, he's the next Paul Pogba. He's the Polish Pogba apparently. I don't know whether we're going to sign him, but yeah, I had heard about it. Renato Sanchez says, Rittik, I mean, he's an interesting one. He's still only 23, Renato Sanchez. He's an interesting one. Rizes says Rice wasn't good. Well, that's up to you, mate. If you don't think Rice wasn't good, that's up to you. But I'll point to you the second half and tell you that Czech Republic took the hold of the midfield and Phillips was trash and Henderson wasn't fit. So you can watch that 45 minutes if you want to in the first half, and you can look at the contrast in the second half. And the difference is Rice was taken off and we lost control of the midfield. So you can argue about, his passing wasn't very good. But to be honest with you, as his job to protect the back four, he did it way better than Phillips and Henderson did. So, and that's fact. Mark, what will happen to Greenwood when United get Sancho, says Rohan? Competition for places is good. Competition for places is good. Idris Gueye was a fantastic player for Everton. Yeah. I really like Twan Sebi, says Cam. I think we should try him next to Maguire in pre-season. You've got no chance. You got no chance. You got no chance at all. He'll be gone. I like him. I like Twan Sebi, but he'll be gone. Definitely. Maybe we would start off for Dortmund now. That's the reason Jude chose Dortmund. Hannibal, you're right, Saish. And look, I don't want to get into this now because it's not the right part of the video to do it towards the end, but I personally have always had a theory, and I don't really want to bring it out because I want Ollie to do well, but I'm not convinced that this promotion of youth under Ollie is actually what it's cracked up to be. People have said that he's given more debuts to young players than anybody, but Mourinho gave a lot of debuts to young players. They just never played. They get 5 minutes here and there and never play. I personally think that Mason Greenwood is a generational talent that would be playing first team football for Sam Allardyce, who's not really got a great record with young players. Greenwood is a no-brainer to get in your first team. Beyond Greenwood, how many players has Ollie used consistently as a young player? McTominay was already part of the team. Rashford was already part of the team. Twan Sebi's hardly been used. Williams was used for a bit and then hardly used. Where are the... Amad Diallo's not really a young player, but he's not really been used despite, showing good glimpses. Greenwood apart, I don't think Solskjaer's development of youth really should be judged yet. I'm not saying he's bad at it, but I'm not going to sit here and say he's good at it because I think there are certain players that should be breaking into the first team, that would be breaking into the first team at Dortmund and would be breaking into the first team under Sir Alex. And I think Ollie needs to trust those players. I think Sir Alex would have used Diallo way more over the last 4 months of the season than Ollie did. Because I think Sir Alex Ferguson would have seen a player like he did with Ronaldo, where he goes, right, that lad's special, I've got to get him involved. And I don't think Ollie did. And Ollie doesn't do it because he's absolutely obsessed about 14 players, the same 14 players all the time. And I think that's why Bruno looks screwed in the Euros. I think it's why Rashford is knackered. It's probably why Maguire got injured. He needs to adapt and use the wider squad and trust some of these younger players. Akshay says, no matter who we buy, if Ollie loves McFred and can move world-class Pogba from midfield, he will play McFred even if he has Kante, says Akshay. Look, I just want to see a specialist CDM at United. Really, really do. Do you think Martial's days at United are numbered, says Dan? No, I think he's a quality player. that Manchester United could use on the bench. If he finds form, he could be a really important player for us. I want Martial to stay because I think replacing Martial with a striker that will be happy to sit on the bench and fight for his place is always difficult. So, yeah. I missed the guy's super chat. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. That's really, really important to let me know that. I try and read them all out, but sometimes they slip through because it's just the way it is. I apologise for that. Martial is a world-class bench player, says Stack Dola. And yeah, I mean, look, I'm interested. I'm interested to see what we're going to do in this transfer window. But going back to the start, it does seem quite encouraging about what's happening with Raphael Varane, as I said. So, let's see what happens. Akshay we did, Clarkey we did, Amit we did, Steve Locke, Brian Jolly. Tommy says, would you take Hamsik for 8 years ago? For me, had United written all over it. Player that always gives 100%. Hamsik, prime, what a player. Well, you're living in the past, mate. Thanks for the super chat, but you're living in the past. Why would I talk about a player from 8 years ago? You're just trying to depress me on purpose because 8 years ago we still had bloody Sir Alex. Well, he actually just retired, hadn't he? I don't know. I wouldn't take him now. And 8 years ago, I think there was probably better players I would have took than Hamsik. So probably not. Good player, but probably not. Bellingham next summer, Ryan. Have you not had enough of Dortmund? I don't want to go and sign a Dortmund player again. I really don't. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Tonight's show will be back at 7 o'clock, sandwiched in between these Euro watch-alongs, which I'm doing on That's Football. So make sure you're over there for those. 5 o'clock kickoff for the Spain group, which is wide open. And then 8 o'clock, potentially Pogba against Bruno. Bruno could be coming home. Ronaldo could be coming home. If it goes really wrong, it could happen. So 2 massive watch-alongs tonight, and also United Stand will be on at 7 o'clock. Of course, we might do one this afternoon if something major breaks, but at the moment, it's probably not going to happen. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you subscribe, by the way, bottom right-hand corner. If anything breaks, you need your notifications on, so subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Smash a like on the video. Take care, have a good day, and I'll speak to you all in a little bit.